Good morning, everyone. We're going to give everyone just a moment to start hopping on. Happy Motivational Monday. I look more tired and more cozier than you usually see me on our Monday mornings. It's because I'm in California. I have been being filmed for a documentary, which has been really cool, but it's early in the morning right now, and I might have been filming for 10 hours yesterday. So it is what it is, but we're going to get started in just a moment. Oh, I'm so happy to see so many of you here. Oh, last week we had like half the amount of people as usual. And I know that the time change was a lot for people, but also not having you all here was a lot for me. So, oh, it's nice to be here with you. Thanks for hanging out in California with me and drinking tea with me while we have conversations about really cool things. Before we dive in, obviously, this is Motivational Monday, and my name is Kira. I am the host of this series. So happy Motivational Monday. We're doing the series all the way throughout the end of the year, and then we will see what happens afterwards. If you guys, if you guys have suggestions or ideas or comments or whatever, there's a survey that pops up at the end of this, and you can type out your little things. You can leave me a love letter. You can leave me a suggestion. You can use it as a journal and write about the things that you see and the things that matter most to you, whatever. I'm here for it. I'm here for our expression. And yes, you can tell people you know me. This documentary is going to be revolutionary. I've been working with behavioral genetics in chiropractics, and so it's a little niche too, but it's also very much like the work of Joe Dispenza, but deeper and a lot more foundational, things like that. So, anywho, really cool. Um, I'm really curious because this month we're doing emotional intelligence, and we are studying Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown and the emotions that she outlines in this book. And it's a different type of conversation, right? It's the type of conversation that brings us more internal than external. So I've been getting less feedback from you all during these sessions because I know that I'm putting you all in a place of contemplation and not necessarily in a place of expression, right? Like when we were doing the habit loop and things like that, like it's so easy to be like, yes, I'm ready to do that, but our emotions are pretty deep seated in our lives and in our world. So I'm curious, how has the emotional intelligence series been for you so far? Are you thinking about things differently? Are you having changes? Drop 111 in the chat if you've seen positive changes from Motivational Monday. And you can drop 222 in the chat if you're just neutral. I'm not even going to ask you guys to do 333 because I don't want to know if you don't like it. Just kidding, I do, but you can drop that in the survey. Okay. Okay, we have a good mix. Oh, I appreciate all of your honesty. I really do. This is helpful. My goal is to plant seeds. So whether or not they blossom now, whether or not they get watered now or years from now or never, that's perfectly fine. Hopefully the conversations we have and the insight that I get to share plants in your mind, and maybe even like 5 years down the road, you're having a conversation with someone and you're like, oh my gosh, you're not stressed, you're overwhelmed. Today, we're talking about stress versus overwhelm. So we're going to just dive right in. So last week we did talk about belonging versus fitting in. How have you guys felt about that since then? Have you noticed the spaces in your life where maybe you're fitting in versus belonging? I have realized so many layers of my own belonging and also places where I didn't approve of my own authenticity or my own expression. And I've been reading Alicia Keys's autobiography, and it's just such a reminder of we are created here to be our own people and to go out in the world and be that. And I'm fun, lively, bubbly. I'm laughing all the time. I'm joyful all the time. And there have been a lot of places in my life where I felt like that was way too much. So now to be in a later part of my journey as a little youngin' still, it's been really nice to honor those parts of myself and to be loved for those parts. Like it's been really cool doing Motivational Monday and hearing from a lot of you of like, I feel like I know Kira. And I feel like I like sit down with her every Monday morning and we have a cool conversation. I'm like, that's amazing. So A lot of the authenticity that you see from me is from my own sense of inner belonging. And as you come into your space of really seeing the places, maybe even in your family where you've been fitting in, or in your friend groups where you've been fitting in, or work where you've been fitting in, or whatever, my hope is that you bring more belonging into that. And I'll leave you with one quote that I said last week, and then we'll dive into stress and overwhelm. If I have to be like you, I fit in. If I get to be like me, I belong. So if there's anything that you take away from last week's session, I hope that it's that quote of like, okay, I can be me and I can belong. And if I don't belong in a space where I'm being me, I will find my space or I will make my space. I've created a lot of spaces and it's been really nice. Okay, so do you guys know the difference between stress and overwhelm? Drop 333 in the chat if you're like, absolutely, I know the difference. And drop 444 in the chat if you're like, honestly, it just all feels crazy to me. Okay, cool. Yay. Brene Brown says if you can't name it, you shame it. So sometimes we're going through overwhelm, which is so much more intense than stress. And because we don't have the name for that and because we can't differentiate that, we actually don't give ourselves the right tools to be able to navigate overwhelm because overwhelm and stress are very different. And sometimes we can judge ourselves and sometimes we can just create all of these stories about ourselves. But at the end of the day, they are very different, and learning about them is so important, especially as the holidays are coming in. Do you guys get stressed around the holidays? Drop 555 in the chat. And then maybe like the biggest thing that stresses you out. Is it your friends? Is it your family? Is it the gifts? Is it the money? Is it all the parties? 90% of people have increased stress around the holidays. I wrote that in my email this morning if you guys didn't see that. Everything in general. Literally. Family, loss of family, absolutely. We have a lot of great guides and life guides who help with grief and loss. And it's such a great place to just get started on your journey. Even just being like, hey, I miss my mom. And the guide can be like, cool, I miss mine too. And you just have someone who's there and can like relate to you, you know, because not everyone can relate to that. Claudia, we have the same last name. Are we sisters? Cousins? Okay. So stress, we feel stressed when we evaluate. Now, I want to be very specific about this. The definition of stress that Brene Brown came to find in her studies is this. We feel stressed when we evaluate, keyword, when we evaluate environmental demand as beyond our ability to cope successfully. This includes elements of unpredictability, uncontrollability, and feeling overwhelmed. Keyword, the evaluation. The things that we're going to see with stress and overwhelm is that they are the way that we perceive the situations in life around us. It's very much perception based. So with stress, you do get body and mind/emotion reactions. And the emotional reaction is about how well we can emotionally cope with the situation itself. So the thought of the situation, not the actual bodily reactions. So stress, we feel stressed when we evaluate environmental demand as beyond our ability to cope successfully. So how do I say that in normal terms? We feel stressed when we think that the things around us are way too much to handle. When we think that the things around us are way too much to handle. And it's that thinking that brings the feelings into our body. It's the perceived thought that makes us begin to stress. That's why you can have two people going through the exact same stressful situation next to each other and they're going to react differently. They have different ways of responding to the environmental demand around them. So it's very much based on how well we think that we can handle the situation. And navigating stressors is a daily part of living. We have minute stresses and we have really big stresses. But what happens is high levels of perceived stress correlate with more rapid aging, decreased immune function, greater inflammatory processes, less sleep, and poorer health behaviors. That's why sometimes if you see someone who's had a really challenging couple of years, they've gone basically gray overnight. It's because their body has been in a stress response as a high level of perceived stress, and they've just operated there. And that's not good for us at all. Do any of you drop 777 in the chat if you feel like you are operating through life at a baseline level of stress that feels like it's a lot for you on a daily basis? Okay. So that, and I don't say this in a way to dismiss your truth and your reality. However, one of the things that I've learned to stress, I used to be a very stressed out person, very type A. Now I've changed a lot of that. And one of the things that I learned was just developing skills that can help me turn off stress and turn off my perception to stress. So the more that you develop stress coping mechanisms, whether it's meditation or yoga or going for a walk or listening to your favorite playlist or sitting down and making yourself a breakfast when the world feels like it's crashing around you, and you just take that time and you sit and honor yourself, developing those stress coping practices within yourself in whatever way that feels good. Drinking tea in the morning. I took a bath yesterday at like 5:30 in the morning, getting ready for filming. The more that you can develop those practices and set yourself up for just feeling good and better in yourself, the less that you're going to perceive that stress as a big, huge stress. And sometimes we get stuck in this huge stress ball where we just wrap it so much more tighter around us and around us and around us. And we take on more stress, and we're already stressed, and people want more things from us, and we don't know how to say no, and we don't know our boundaries, and we're not taking the time for ourselves. And that's when we start to get into overwhelm. So what overwhelm looks like is an extreme level of stress, an emotional and or cognitive intensity to the point of feeling unable to function. So basically, it's extreme stress that is so intense that you feel like you can't do anything. I don't experience overwhelm that much anymore. But when I do, it's usually like an environmental stimulus overwhelm, where there's so much happening around me that I can't even form words. And usually it's fleeting. I don't necessarily live in like a big state of overwhelm. I'm also a single woman traveling and living her life and filming documentaries. I don't have kids. I don't have family members. Or I do have family members, but like I don't have sick family members. I'm not caretaking for anyone. My life has become very easy because I used to live very, very, very stressed out. I ran a really successful business. I was at the top of what I did. I was mentoring, coaching, doing everything, traveling, and I lived at such a high level of overwhelm that I shut down. And I was shut down probably, I mean, I'm still coming out of it, but I was shut down for maybe 6 to 8 months, like really paralyzed, not able to do much at all. And getting out of that has been huge. So, with exactly, Claudia, it's debilitating stress. It's stress to a level where it completely knocks you out and you're unable to do anything. Drop 888 in the chat if you felt that. Yeah. And if you would like to share in the chat, like what has contributed to that, whether it's family, whether it's a deadline, whether it's work, whether it's relationships. I've had relationships put me in significant overwhelm back before I knew the way that I was meant to be treated in relationships. Family, I get that. Work. Oh, wow. Sibling loss and breast cancer diagnosed this year. Absolutely. I wouldn't be able to cope with that at all. The thought of losing my best friend or my mom. And that's just a single thing. We're all so strong. I feel like that's like the one thing I would love to say is we are all so strong and we're so resilient, and we've been through so much madness in life, and we're all still here and we're all still showing up and we're all still doing our best. And I applaud us all on that, because it could be really easy to just put ourselves under a rock or not do anything anymore or become pessimistic. And for us to continue to show up and be here is the greatest gift. So I applaud you on that, because life gets crazy. It really does. Yeah, we're experiencing overwhelm with family, sibling loss and breast cancer, work, grief, loss of family members, medical issues, family health, and current economics. I get that. Lost my mom and sister last year. Today is my sister's birthday. Aw, Claudia, sending you so much love. And may their memory be held in so much love and light too. Losing my dad, work, a move, dealing with imposter syndrome, everything that you all are explaining here, I want you to know that you do not have to live with overwhelm at all. And that you can have the support and guidance. One of the greatest things about having a mentor, a coach, or a guide is that you get to unload some of that stress onto someone who can take it and just release it and not have to personalize it. And you can start letting some of that stress go and being seen and heard, because one of the cool things is that us as human beings, we co-regulate, which means that our nervous system, when we're in overwhelm and stress, our nervous system is unable to regulate itself anymore and keep us at a ground level. So when that happens, we are in a space of just being so overwhelmed, right? So when you're co-regulating with someone else's groundedness, when you're up here stressed, overwhelmed, their groundedness gets to bring you down. And their regulation in their selves gives you the permission to regulate yourself. And it only happens when you have an actual connection with someone. And it only happens when when that bond is actually present. So that's why some people go to therapists or go to yoga classes or do mindfulness practices with people who they don't feel that connection with, and they don't experience the actual benefits of that work because they're not working with someone that they're actually connected to. And there's a depth of the work that we do when we're connected to someone and when we trust someone and that we know that we're safe in that. So when we're overwhelmed, responding with organized thoughts feels absolutely impossible. And with stress and overwhelm, both are related to our perception of how we are coping with our current situation and our ability to handle the accompanying emotions. Am I coping? Can I handle this? Do I know what I'm feeling? What do I need right now? And John Kabat-Zinn says, the all too common feeling that our lives are overwhelm is the all too common feeling that our lives are somehow unfolding faster than the human nervous system and psyche can handle. That's why working on nervous system regulation practices are so important. Putting yourself in hard situations that challenge your body's survival response is so good, like saunas or cold plunges or even going for a run. That has helped me navigate situations that could have been so overwhelming, because I've put myself and my body in such high stressors that my ability to handle stress has expanded, because I know that I can handle so many more things because I intentionally put myself in hard situations. So when the unintentional hard situations come, I know how to handle them and deal with them properly. And drop 999 in the chat if you have any of those practices within yourself, and maybe drop what it is in the chat. It could just be reading a book. Reading a book. If I get overwhelmed, sometimes I turn my computer off and read a book. It's great. So the cure for overwhelm, you guys might be surprised by this. I was surprised by this, is mindful play, no agenda, and non-doing time. And we maybe have 2 more minutes and we'll close this out. Have any of you ever done any of that? Scheduled non-doing time? Having no agenda? Sometimes when we're so overwhelmed, it's really easy to think that we have to do more and more and more things, but that will only exacerbate your overwhelm. Oh, cute. No agenda time is awesome. I try on Sundays. Beautiful. If you're feeling that overwhelming sense of overwhelm, do nothing right then and there. Don't put it off. And that could even look like just going to the bathroom for 7 minutes and sitting there and shutting your eyes and breathing and playing a song. It's not scrolling through social media. It's not, I mean, it could be talking to a friend, but the key is non-doing. It's not distraction. It's non-doing. And Carol Gomes says, overwhelm describes an experience where our emotions are intense. Our focus on those emotions is moderate, And our clarity about exactly what we're feeling is low enough that we get confused when trying to identify or describe emotions. So that's why it's so important to just chill for a moment so that everything can come back to center. You can have your senses back and you can start to make sense of the world around you. But if you continue to operate from a state of overwhelm, you will get more overwhelmed and you will be less capable of doing the things that you need to do, and it won't feel good. So the key takeaway is that stress and overwhelm have everything to do with our narrative of emotional and mental depletion. There's just too much going on to manage effectively. So the more that you build these tools and these resources to manage stress and overwhelm effectively, the less stressed and overwhelmed you will become, and the more resourced you'll become as well. You'll feel more supported. You'll feel more taken care of. And that's, for me, that's what I desire to feel. Drop 111 in the chat if you're like, I would love to feel that way too. Cool. Well, this is the end of today's Motivational Monday. Invite your team members and your work friends and your work husbands and your work wives to Motivational Monday. I'm going to drop the registration link here for all of you. You can find our Motivational Monday registration link and all of our other sessions here. Invite your people, send them the registration link, let them know that we have fun conversations, and allow them to also have the space to grow. If you haven't used a guide yet, I suggest registering and using a guide. It can be a quick 15-minute conversation of, I feel really vulnerable and I'm uncomfortable having this conversation and I don't know what to do. And that in and of itself is more than enough. To register for LifeGuides, you can go to app.lifeguides.com, register there, and I will see you next Monday. If you all were on the financial well-being series last week or last month, we do have our exclusive group session this Wednesday. I will not be there. I will be flying back from California. However, Ben will be there and a guide will be there, and you'll be getting real life, not financial advice. We're not financial advisors, but we'll be giving you support on your financial journey and helping you navigate that part of your well-being as well. So I'm sending you all lots and lots of love. Have the most beautiful Monday. We will talk soon. And if you need anything, we're here for you. Catch you later. Bye.